Mid lane. The lane of I can play whatever I want, I can take whatever summoners I want, take whatever keystone masteries I want, and no matter what, I am definitely not trolling. I don't have no idea what you're talking about. Nautilus mid with Storm Raiders AD is a thing, excuse you. But the moment a Jinx takes anything other than Warlord's Bloodlust, she must be trolling, guys. Can you guys all report Jinx at the end of this game? I don't care if she's 8-1. Still, she's a troll. It doesn't matter. Do your job. Mid lane is an interesting lane in League of Legends in my experience because for me, I see it kind of like the leader of the roles. It's the Red Ranger of all the roles on the Rift, kind of. And what I mean by that is that it can have the most impact depending on if it gets ahead or not, if it kind of leads the charge, if you will. If your mid laner gets fed, they can then use their lead to go impact the side lanes to get them fed even if they're struggling, and as such you can kind of just go on and win the game through the fact that your mid laner was good enough to both body their lane and then smart enough to help you body your lanes and go from there. And it's the same thing if you're on the receiving end, right? If your enemy mid laner is super fed, even if you're doing well in your lane, you might be suddenly overextended to a roam by the enemy mid laner who can come down, kill you, get a lead for then the enemy bot lane that you were beating that you're suddenly now not beating. Especially if it's late enough in the lane phase that even the jungler came and they just take your tower from under you, right? Now what does this have to do with Lucian? Lucian, in my experience, is kind of like Vayne. You know how sometimes we'll see a Vayne top and they're not trolling, they legitimately like Vayne's a duelist and I can duel this particular matchup. I think Lucian top and Lucian mid for that matter are things you can actually play successfully, but it depends on the matchup, as most things probably in League do. And I start with the middle lane Lucian because when I first played Lucian, I actually didn't play him bottom lane when I used to play Lucian. I used to play Lucian top and mid. So I'm speaking from experience. I'm not the greatest, of course, Lucian player or anything like that. So it's not that you have to take what I'm saying to heart, but I am saying why I think you have seen it before, why we've now seen it professionally, and while recently in pro play, it's actually kind of become a little bit of a thing to see at least mid lane Lucian. But I will touch on top lane Lucian briefly for a second. The thing about mid lane Lucian is that it's a very niche pick into certain matchups because Lucian, like Vayne, is a duelist AD carry. And the thing about duelist AD carries is not that they're going to be completely trash in solo lanes. The thing about the AD carry role generally is that the reason they have a support is, as a whole, they're the least mobile out of the 3 lane roles. Top lane, they are something like a Yasuo or a Riven, where if they're overextended and get ganked and don't have flash, there might be a chance they can still get out of a gank without having to die because maybe some mobility they have or the duelist potential they have. You gank a Fiora the wrong way, she's just going to 1v2 and kill both of you and then go on about her way. Or if you're top lane, there's a chance you're a tank, in which case, without flash, you might still die, but it's going to take a lot of resources to kill you and a lot of time to kill you. And if you look at the mini-map, regularly, like at least once a second when you're playing the game, you're going to notice the enemy jungler is top and for a while, and you can play aggressively in your lane or in bottom lane. Middle lane is kind of the same thing, in which case if you're playing something like Ahri, and I've touched on this before, you might not want to use your Spirit Rush as a defensive tool, but if you don't have flash and you really want to survive, you do have 3 dashes in your ultimate to get away from something. If you're a Azir, you might not want to use the wall that way defensively, but you can if you need to. AD carries kind of have some defensive tools, but in general, junglers are kind of more mobile than they are, that they can probably still get it off. If a Lucian is ganking a Jinx, he could probably use his ward hop just to get around the flame choppers, let alone land his Q and then flash insect if he really wants to do the insect kick. There are different ways to get to a lot more. First of all, there's immobile AD carries like Jinx, like Kog'Maw, stuff like that can be more easily killed by certain junglers. But even the more mobile ones, a Caitlyn net gun isn't going to save you from a Lee Sin the way Ahri's Spirit Rush might save you from a Lee Sin. And I've talked about this a bit too much in this video, so let me kind of start getting on to the main points of this video. But I kind of want to set up a bit of context for you guys so you can understand where I'm coming from when I explain this. If you're someone that kind of wants to understand why Lucian mid is kind of a thing, and if you're going to start seeing him in your games, why you can maybe be rest assured that you don't have to dodge because they're not trolling. The thing about Lucian and Vayne in them is, yeah, they have mobility, they can tumble, they can dash away, but they're still pretty susceptible to ganks. They're not really as mobile as an Ahri or as tanky as a Nautilus or Maokai or Poppy or whatever, so they still have to worry about that, is why you don't really see those kind of champions, even if they can duel in a matchup well, in other lanes, because then they have to worry about the jungle. Lucian into Fiora, for example, I'm not saying this is actual fact, but let's say Lucian actually plays well into Fiora because they're both duelist kind of champions. well then the issue becomes, even if you actually can bully Fiora, you get ganked by a Jarvan or a Vi, and you don't have a support there to help you escape, you're kind of dead, right? But Lucian mid, like I said, it's a niche pick into things like Orianna, things that he can actually heavily bully, and yeah, you're still going to be susceptible to jungle ganks in that situation, but most likely, because it's such a niche pick and you're such a hard counter, if you play it right anyway, that even if you get killed by the jungler, it's most likely they're responding to showing up after you killed Orianna. So you're still at least getting gold that way, going 1-for-1. Now, that's not the only thing Lucian can play well into in the middle lane, but that's the kind of concept. It's because you're a duelist, and it's because you can have certain matchups where you actually will be able to body someone, because you can go in on them, and they can't really defend themselves. Now, Orianna can kind of defend herself. She's kind of a zoning mage, but she can shield herself if she needs be. But that's really what Lucian is played for. He's played to kind of go in on certain champions and duel them close range when they can't really defend themselves, and when they miss all their spells. Like mages, Lucian is a spellcaster, but because of the way his kit works, his auto attacks weave in between those, and so he can, I don't want to say outspell somebody, but if someone uses their spells and it's early in lane phase, they might have cooldowns and things that they have to manage better, and if they don't manage better, they're going to be out of those abilities, they're going to run out of their mana pretty quick, and Lucian, even though he can eat through some mana too, he's still going to have his auto attacks to weave in between to still be able to go in on somebody and kind of win trades through that. So basically, it's because of his passive that he can duel some people in the mid lane rather well, because unlike their auto attacks, his auto attacks are going to hurt, and his cooldowns for his auto attacks are going to be reset by the abilities he's using. So that's kind of the concept for mid lane Lucian, at least in my experience when I used to play Lucian in other roles but bottom lane, and what I'm seeing so far in pro play is that A, it's about being able to duel people with your cooldowns and your auto attacks, and B, it's about playing into specific matchups where Lucian can take advantage of those. Now yes, like I said, the jungler is going to be a thing. Unless the meta changes where it's like the mid lane now gets the support champion, that's just always going to kind of be a fear you're going to have, but there's this thing you can do to counter junglers ganking you, at least kind of. You know, it's kind of cost very cheap. It's called wards. I know some people don't even believe wards exist. You'll never see wards bought in their history of their matches ever, but those things can actually save you from the jungle. And the reason I bring up wards, even though joking aside, is because if the problem is you're getting ganked or getting killed when you're playing mid Lucian into something that you actually should be able to bully, then you might just have to look at ward placement. It's a simple trick, for example, in the bottom lane, that if you want to ward the tri-brush, you ward the part of the tri-brush closest to you, so that way if the enemy that's clearing it isn't range, and it's like a melee Braum or something, he has to walk the furthest point possible into the tri-brush to be able to clear that like red ward, for example. In which case, if he does that and you guys happen to be in the area, it just might give you an extra second to gap close to him if he has to get close enough to auto the ward and kill it. Same thing might go for mid lane. You might have to maybe put your yellow ward in the river brush on the side, but maybe your red ward, if it's something that's super mobile, you just have to start putting that ward a little bit deeper, or actually put the red ward in the side brush, because that one will be able to get cleared easier, and then put the yellow ward maybe down the river a bit more. It's kind of, again, like playing bot lane, where instead of warding the brush, even on blue side, if you're playing on blue side, even warding the brush right there at the corner of the river, some people will go ward up near Dragon Pit, so that way if it's something that's super mobile, you have a lot of time to see it coming and be able to run from it. That might be one of the strategies you have to adapt if you want to play Lucian mid successfully, in case you are fearful of a jungle gank, because you're like, hey, I can win this lane if jungles didn't exist, but junglers do exist, so I gotta be kind of aware of this. And I know this is kind of common knowledge, but I thought I'd just say it anyway, because this is something that sometimes people might not even think about. The fact of, hey, if I put this ward closer in the brush towards me, it just means the enemy has to get that much closer to it to clear it. Now, top Lucian. I said I was going to talk about top Lucian. That's actually where I used to play Lucian first and foremost. It's actually just really the same concept, but you don't have to worry about getting ganked by the jungler from both sides of the river. It's just really the one side. It's kind of like playing bot lane a little bit, and if you have the winning matchup, you can bully them. Again, Lucian, I wouldn't actually recommend playing Lucian top or mid into tanks though. He can do it, but I think he's better into squishier targets because of how he can duel and bully them in the laning phase. Now that's why I think we've seen it in pro play. We actually did see top Lucian twice last year in Season 6 of pro play, once in EU and once in NA. And in EU, it was played into Gangplank, and it actually did a really good job bullying Gangplank in the lane and succeeding that way. Now we're seeing it mid lane for those same reasons. So if you see Lucian in ranked, in top lane, in mid lane, there's a good chance he's not trolling, but if he doesn't have a good matchup, you know, maybe, I don't want to say educate him on what a better matchup might be, because maybe they actually are a Lucian main and they just play Lucian wherever they want. I don't really know, but that's why you might start seeing him in your games, into certain matchups, because it's kind of meta right now. Obviously, the pros did it, so obviously everybody needs to do it, and that's kind of all for this video. So thank you for watching this video this far if you did. feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Specifically comment and we can have a conversation about Lucian mid, Lucian top. Have you seen him in your games already? Do you think you're going to see him in your games? Or have you even tried playing him yourself with some success or failure? So we can have all that kind of conversation in the comment section down below. But I don't know which video will be next because life will be quite a mess. So until next time, take care from the FireGuy FS.